Welcome, everybody, to episode 299 of WordPress Weekly for Wednesday, December 27th, 2017. I'm your host, Jeff Chandler, joined by the jolly good old St. Nick himself, J Trip.
Wait a minute, you're not St. Nick. Hello.
Jolly James Jacoby.
That's about as jolly as I'm going to get, I think.
J Quad. Quad J.
Wow. Oh, that's one more J than I know what to do with.
Hey. Welcome back, everybody. This is the post-Christmas edition of WordPress Weekly. Hope you had a good holiday there, John.
Yeah, it was awesome. Our holiday was pretty standard. We saw some family, opened some presents. I am impatient, so Carrie and I opened everything on Christmas Eve. I forced her to open like one little present a day the entire week. But other than that, it was pretty good. What about you?
I had a pretty good holiday. Got a couple of nice things. I drank most of my Christmas gifts before Christmas. So, had a lot of empty mason jars around. But awesome. For the first time, me and my wife cooked a prime rib, and it came out a little overdone in some spots, but overall, we're very happy with not ruining a $35 piece of meat.
Right.
Still eating prime rib, and it tastes good 2 days later. So,
That's right.
I'm very happy about that. And just on.
Are you allowed to talk about where you went for your birthday dinner, or is that like advertising that's not allowed on the show?
No. For my birthday, we went to the Cheesecake Factory, and I haven't had a bad meal there yet. If I had, it would be on my top 5 of most reliable favorite restaurants I've been to over the years in terms of good service and good food. Everything they have there, even their salads, their appetizers, anything they have there is really good. And I actually picked up. I'm not a huge fan of. I like ice cream cakes. I like cakes. I like sweets, but I don't usually eat the whole thing throughout the week. A slice is all I need. So I picked up a slice of this chocolate-covered chocolate cheesecake. There's so much chocolate in there, and it turned out to be quite delicious. So,
what if it came in a mason jar?
Like cheesecake moonshine, huh?
I like that this show is now officially brought to everyone by the Cheesecake Factory.
Thank you. Yes. Boy, if only I can get a check from them, that would make things so much sweeter.
Or a free birthday dinner or a piece of cake or anything. You got nothing, it sounds like.
Yeah, pretty much. I had to pay for my own meal. That's what I had because I don't have any friends. Anyways.
Oh, wow. At least, I am insulted. You broke my one remaining feeling.
Hey, if you were my friend, you would have flew down here and paid for my dinner. So
it's too cold by you, and it's way too cold here to even think about trying to go outside for any length of time. It's like negative 10 degrees here right now.
Yeah, it's cold. It is. There are words I can't say on this show to describe how cold it is because we'd be fined by the FCC, even though they don't listen to us.
Did you see that there were places in Pennsylvania that had like record-setting snowfall, like 65 inches of snow?
Erie, PA. That's what you call lake effect.
That is crazy.
Well, if you're down in West Virginia, they call it creek effect. Depends on where you're at. But let's. We had a good holiday. Everything is good. Now we're in this time of the year of between Christmas and New Year's. We're like, it's a time warp. You really don't know what day it is. You don't know what's going on. You just kind of take it easy. So many places are closed. You show up to work and you're the only one there working. The whole office is empty, off doing other things. So this is pretty cool show. We're actually going to talk about some of the news that made headlines throughout the year of 2017. It's a little bit cliche. Everybody has their own year in review post, and it's kind of a tradition here on the show. And it turns out that end of the year, a lot of things happen in the WordPress ecosystem. And like I was telling John in the pre-show, when I look back through the archive on the Tavern, there were so many things that happened, and there were so many things that we didn't even cover, that we didn't even get to write about or chose not to write about. So we'll cover those in detail. We'll kind of go through the headlines here throughout the show. However, before we get to that, we do have a new iTunes review. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Thank you to Kevin W. Hoffman, who gave us this review, and he says,
it's not even a bad one. It's a good review. Who'd have thought?
It's actually 5 stars.
It's 5 whole stars, out of 5 even.
5 stars, 5 out of 5. He says, valuable WordPress insight from multiple perspectives. That's the title of his review. He says, Jeff and John make a great couple. I'm just kidding. He says they make a great team. I enjoy Jeff's perspective. I enjoy Jeff's perspective as a writer covering the WordPress space. I crack myself up. Coupled with Triple J's technical and historical perspective of WordPress as it has evolved over the years, guests are always top notch and keep you up to date on all that's happening in WordPress. Thank you, Kevin, very much for your review. And if we ever do like another show based around Gutenberg, maybe like a roundtable or something, I want to get Kevin on the show because he is he's really in it. I mean, he's really taking at what you contribute is what you get sort of mentality that Morten Rand Hendrickson has been talking about to heart, and he's really getting involved with the discussions and trying to make Gutenberg the best it can be when it hits the point when it's possibly could be merged into WordPress. So
when I saw Morten's tweet about that, I thought it was like a missed opportunity for the Give WP folks, because what you give is what you get would have been a great slogan, especially for like holiday discounts. I'm not in marketing or anything, but I don't know. Absolutely. If you're listening, Give WP friends, next year after everyone has forgotten, that is a free idea for you.
There you go. So thanks again, Kevin, for the review. And again,
awesome.
Listeners out there, if you could please stop by iTunes, give us a review, 1-star, 5-star, doesn't matter. Let us know what you think about the show. Even throw in some ideas of some guests or topics you'd like for us to cover. It'd be great insight. Mm-hmm. With that said, what do you say we get on to our year in review?
So we're gonna a couple things happened this year, surprisingly enough.
Wow. Yeah, let's start off. Let's go all the way back. Let's hop in my DeLorean, as I like to say. The flux capacitor is fluxing. Let's go back to January, and we'll start off with the WP CLI project. Got official WordPress.org support. So now it's actually a project that was brought in under the WordPress.org umbrella, and now it's going to receive a lot more eyeballs to it, a lot more contributors, and it's part of an official project now under WordPress.org. So a really good move there.
I have a comment about this before you jump to the next one, because I know that you want to grind through all these.
Yes.
My favorite part about this, which isn't in our remaining thing since it wasn't posted on the Tavern, but Daniel Bachhuber recently posted on the make.wordpress.org network that he's stepping back actually a little bit from WP CLI, which is one of those things that I've talked about with the BBs in the past, but also that I think is really great for both Daniel and WP CLI, and for WordPress to see that that there were some sort of goals, and that it not just being kind of Daniel's show, and that everyone in the WordPress community understanding that Daniel's sort of role was to raise awareness and bring WP CLI to a place where everyone could like enjoy it for the awesome tool that it is. And that he understands that he's ready to move on from it a little bit, and that there is a good support structure and network and other contributors behind WP CLI to like officially say, I'm stepping back from it a little bit, is like great leadership, I think. And so since I know that we're not talking about it later, and since we're not really going to talk about WP CLI very much for the rest of the episode, I wanted to call Daniel out specifically for being an outstanding leader when it comes to WP CLI stuff, because I think that it takes a lot of guts and self-awareness, and it's the right thing to do for himself and family and project and everything else. So kudos to Daniel.
Yeah, and even with Daniel stepping back, I know Alan Schlesinger, I think his name is, he was named a co-maintainer for the WP CLI project, and since it's under the oh boy, I almost screwed up there. Since it's under the WordPress.org umbrella, it will be sure to be maintained and have continued releases throughout the year. And it's nice to see that's not just a one-man show. It can survive now without Daniel being the sole nucleus of the project.
Yep, exactly right. Okay, onwards and upwards.
Onwards. WordPress 4.7 was released to fix 8 security issues. Automatic released a free plugin that allows you to export photos from Lightroom to WordPress. Also in January, Aaron Campbell replaced Nikolay
Bychesky
as WordPress's security czar, which I didn't even know that role existed until that news came out.
I'm surprised that was a year ago already. Wow.
Yeah. Postmatic Basic rebranded as Replyable, It moved to two-way email commenting to a software as a service product. Jetpack 4.5 expanded monetization efforts with Word Ads integration. The Obama Foundation launched a new website that was powered by WordPress. And
that's pretty awesome.
In recent news, whitehouse.gov has been redesigned on WordPress, so it's now running WordPress.
And I guess that's awesome too, but
okay. Moving on. Wix removed GPL licensed WordPress code from its mobile app and forked the original MIT library. I remember that was a big brouhaha back with the whole Wix and the CEO and Matt going back and forth, and things kind of came to a head, and things kind of settled down a little bit there. And then this brought us into February.
So February, 10up unveiled ElasticPress.io, which was the SaaS version of their Elasticsearch plugin that they had for WordPress sites. Mr. Matt Mullenweg responded to some security rants, specifically in regards to digital signatures for WordPress. We've got updates are important, but not a priority. I didn't read that one, so I don't remember what that one was about. So
this was the whole story about
the libsodium thing.
Libsodium and how WordPress updates should have a digital signature or fingerprint to prevent a major breach from happening on WordPress Serverless update servers.
Yep. And thankfully that didn't happen. So, okay. BuddyPress 2.8 came out. We raised the PHP minimum requirement, which was nice because we were able to include some auto loading stuff. We still have some backwards compatibility there, but it allowed us to write a little bit cleaner, nicer code. We added the 2017 CSS support in BuddyPress 2.8. There was is this the original UI prototype for Gutenberg? Oh yeah, look at that. An experimental block-based editor. Oh yeah, look at where we are now, huh? Xerif Lite returns to WordPress.org after a 5-month suspension. It's 63% decline in revenue. I remember that post. It's no good. The Cloudflare memory leak was an awesome post. It was a terrible day, but it was a great post. Leak exposes some users potentially exposed private data.
Oh, wow. You said it was a great post, and I was like, well, guess who wrote it? I thought it was Sarah. No, I wrote it. Yes.
That was a good post. Freemius launched insights for WordPress themes. And that was back when HackerOne was originally announced their free community edition for non-commercial open source projects. February, shortest month, but there's a lot going on right away.
Brings us to March. Web annotations became a W3C standard, which paves the way for decentralized annotation infrastructure. WordPress 4.7.3 patched 6 security vulnerabilities. WeFoster, shout out to Marion. Congratulations on your new son. WeFoster launched a hosted platform that caters to online communities. Really cool site if you're running or managing a large online community, whether it's through BuddyPress or just WordPress itself. Definitely check out WeFoster. Jetpack introduced theme installation from WordPress.com. This sparked controversy with the alternative marketplace for free themes, which didn't amount to that much. PressShack forked EditFlow to create Publish Press. Aims to improve multi-user editorial workflow in WordPress, and I know that the folks over there at PressShack have doing a lot of work with Publish Press. They've done a lot of updates throughout the year. Definitely check that out if you're looking for an EditFlow alternative. Yoast SEO 4.5 was released, and it added a sort of a prompt that urged users to upgrade to PHP 7. This created a little bit of controversy, of course. People referring to the guidelines and the plugin directory in terms of what is and is not allowable. And it turns out that I remember Yoast actually talked to Otto, I believe, or members of the plugin guidelines team, and said they were going to run this experiment, and they approved it as an experiment to see how users would react to it. And as we'll see later on throughout the year, it was actually quite beneficial for this.
Super positive. Yep.
Foxhound became the first REST API powered theme on WordPress.org. GoDaddy acquired Sucuri. That was a huge acquisition earlier.
That was a big deal.
WordPress relaunched the plugin directory with a new design and improved search algorithm. hooray! Although it wasn't hooray at the time, it was a lot of boo because of, well, the WordPress. It was relaunched, but it took away a lot of stuff that developers and users appreciated, like tabs, the advanced information like stats and stuff like that. But throughout the year, they started adding that stuff back, and eventually, we not only did we get a new redesign, but they brought the old stuff back as well. So it's like the best of both.
It was
worlds.
a very Apple style relaunch where like you know what it is that you don't like, and so you know what it is that you want to redesign, and so you just remove a bunch of things that everyone kind of thought were useful, and then you say, hey, don't worry, it'll come back later, and then give it a little while, and eventually it does. So I think there's something to that. I think it worked for the better, and the new plugin directory is pretty rad now, so it all works out.
Poopy.life.
It's my favorite.
Lets you create free unlimited WordPress test installs. It launched in March. I added that specific story because I wanted you to give, it was free giggle, free laughs. Like in wrestling, they call it a free pop from the crowd when you announce the city that you're in.
Yep.
That always works. WordPress Community Port shut down WordCamp Netherlands in favor of city-based WordCamps. And that created a lot of discussion around the fact of, well, what is the regional-based WordCamp? How many regional WordCamps do you need for it to be a sort of country-based WordCamp? And there's a lot of discussion that happened there. And as we'll see later on in the year, that decision was reversed.
I really like this. I know that Sarah wrote that post, but this is where like journalism is so fascinating. It's fascinating to me because like the title of this post is like invokes like. It's very strong, like support community shuts down WordCamp Netherlands. Like it's like, whoa.
Trust me, I've had many a conversation with her about headlines where my headlines are always lame and they suck. And then the ones I always joke about that I can't publish are always the good ones. But yeah, she's very good when it comes to headlines. And the thing about it is, it has to have punch. It has to make people click it, make people want to know what's going on. Elicit emotion if you can. Hopefully accurately,
hopefully accurately. So speaking of accuracy, that brings us to April. April Fools.
Nice.
Where WooCommerce 3.0 brought a bunch of major improvements to the product gallery and some my favorite things.
It introduced CRUD.
CRUD, yeah, all of the fun CRUD classes and. So a dedicated command line interface for a bunch of stuff. So that kind of paved the way for the BBs needing to do it too. So kudos to the Woo team back in April for getting that in. Jetpack 4.8 it introduces another settings redesign and a global WordPress.com toolbar. Yoast SEO's PHP upgrade nag is already producing a significant increase in sites upgraded to PHP 7. So less than a month later, and there's already results. The BuddyPress 2016 survey results show about a 54% of everyone that responded are on PHP 7 or higher. I mean, we don't get a huge number of responses for that, a few hundred, I think, but that was good to see. WordPress 4.7.4 came out and fixed about 47 issues. Headway themes, oh, man, this must have been your title. You titled this one. This was you all the way.
Come on.
Headway themes appears to be dying a slow death. Oh my goodness.
All right, let me check.
That was you.
Yeah,
that was you. Boy, oh boy.
Would you stop that?
How many comments does that post have on it? That's got to be like
only 13. But I also had
100?
a lot of comments from
outside
outside of the tavern from people. On a more serious note, so I wrote that Headway themes appear to be dying a slow death on April 21st, and it was sort of an update on the progress and the things that I heard about regarding support and what's going on behind the scenes. And to this day, we're nearing the end of 2017. Obviously, there hasn't been much of anything going on with Headway themes. Nobody knows much of anything. It's pretty much. I don't even know if the lights are still on. I think the last I heard was that some customers. I think I received an email that said renew emails are being sent out and they're accepting renewal subscriptions of people who pay for them, which So unknowing customers can be a really, it seems kind of cringeworthy type of thing to be doing. I don't know if there's any talks behind the scenes about an acquisition, a buyout, maybe the Headway page builder. I don't know if what's going on. I don't even know the family issues that are going on behind the scenes. So again, if you are a current subscriber to Headway Themes, I highly, highly encourage you to please take a look at some of the alternatives out there. Because at some point, all signs point to you're going to have to migrate sooner rather than later.
I wonder about a lot of the theme shops that because I don't use a lot of those themes. Like there were some themes like the folks at Array Themes, and I used Make from the Theme Foundry for a long time, and I wonder like the theme, even like I think about Justin Tadlock. And Theme Hybrid and some of the he has a nice community and passionate users, and he blogs a lot and he is active with his community. But because I haven't needed to or had the pleasure of using Theme Hybrid for a long time, or basically years at this point, that is it what is the perception there? His community is probably alive and well, but because I don't use it, do I think that it's not? It doesn't have as much activity as maybe it should. And so, I wonder if there are happy Headway Themes users still that are somehow getting communicated to that no one else can see for some reason. It makes me wonder because no.
The answer is no. They had a great. And I even mentioned this in the article that a number of Headway's devoted fans. I mean, we're talking about fans that loved Headway, that supported them. Yeah. I mean, there was this time period where the most loyal of the fan base of Headway Themes wanted to get behind Clay and Grant Griffiths, the owners of Headway Themes, and do whatever they could to help those two out to make sure Headway Themes had a future, that their clients had a future with Headway Themes. And because of the lack of communication, because of the lack of leadership, a lot of those people at some point, just and they were actually quite patient from what I observed in this community-run Slack channel. At some point, you just got to cut your ties, cut your losses, and move on to other things. So a lot of them switched to Divi, Elementor, Beaver Builder, and what was once a vibrant community that Headway Themes had is now, just a piece of history. I mean, so there you go. I mean, and that's the thing that really boggled my mind is that I know those two were having some issues with the business, but here you had a devoted, loyal following of people that absolutely loved and adored your product. They knew that there were some quirks, but they wanted to do what they could do to help you out, whether that was marketing, whether that was bug patching, whether that was stepping into the support forums, doing whatever they can to make sure that the product survived and that things could continue to go on, at least get them through this rough patch. And, like I said, lack of communication, just at some point, your loyal fans lose that motivation to help you out in that way. And they got things to do. They've got client sites to build, and they end up just moving on. Now, I want to open up Pandora's box a little bit here.
Oh, goody.
And this is in reference to my coverage of Headway Themes. Ooh. And so I covered and wrote about Headway Themes and what was going on behind the scenes, the troubles that they were experiencing with their business. And I took a lot of flack from people who I know are close friends, both personally and professionally, with the Griffiths. And a lot of them, I don't want to say took pot shots at me, but a lot of their criticism came off as protecting Grant and Clay, as if what was going on was okay, that what they were doing to their customers was okay, that this was just a thing that was happening, just a rough patch. Yet here we are so many months later with still no communication and what have you. So, John, why do you think that is? Why do you think in this WordPress space we're seeing that? I mean, the customers, in my mind, are the biggest losers in this. I mean, they were being treated this way with products, lack of updates, lack of information, and what have you. And then for a lot of prominent members in the WordPress community to protect Grant and Clay as if this was okay. Why do
I don't know.
you think about that reaction?
I mean, I can only speculate, I guess, but the WordPress community.
Yeah, don't speak for them. Just kind of speculate and give me your perspective.
I think we are a close-knit kind of group, and I don't know that there's a lot of scuttlebutt, but people have opinions or back-channel conversations, or people are friends with people, and they don't want to see their friends receive public negative criticism in general, and so maybe it's a tact kind of thing. If it's somebody's business is failing or somebody's relationship is failing, how newsworthy is that? I guess I can imagine why people wouldn't want to hear or see some of that be talked about at length, but at the same time, if it's business related, if it's a company and there are users that are involved that are
paying customers
that are being left behind or ignored or abandoned, if it was Apple or Coinbase or Robinhood or Twitter or anybody else, if a company just stopped responding but still continued to advertise as if they were a thing,
and they still continue to accept payments,
right? Then it's still news. It's just not good news. And so, like people that are close to the issue, and this is where we're in an interesting growth period with WordPress, I think, because we're all learning what the real world. I mean, I'm totally using the wrong and not good verbiage, but like WordPress is scrappy and it's people learning, lots of startups, lots of first, second, third businesses, lots of partnerships failing, starting. It's lots that comes and goes, and other companies and other real world in-person jobs and bigger companies that have 30,000 employees in different departments. When somebody gets fired or leaves, there's conversation, there's back channel, there's people that know the person and why they left, there's people who know the reason why they got fired that can't say anything, there's people that know every angle, and then who chooses to talk to who and why and how is like all very dynamic and based on like a pretend trust system that may or may not actually exist because it's a workplace where people don't really actually know each other. Some people do. It's very complex dynamic is the point I'm trying to get at. And so by covering anybody's business that's failing or being critical of someone else's business, there are people who know the people in the business that are going to come to their defense when they can't defend themselves. We all are, generally speaking, I think, we tend to take ownership of things, whether or not they're ours to take ownership of, because we think that we can see things through. We can pick people up if they need to be picked up. I think even like Frederick Towns went through something similar with W3 Total Cash. I don't know if it was this year or last year, but there's a lot of obligations and money exchanging hands and responsibilities that maybe weren't being met, and people get critical, people come to their defense, people come back and forth. And so I think it's pretty natural that people would feel strongly about how you covered it. I think it's natural to cover it because it's still news. I think I understand all angles of it, but I think the end result is that it's important that you continue to be a journalist and do your job. It's important that people that are friends with the people who are being covered understand that they have a right to speak out and have a narrative, and they are comfortable with you enough to say something, which I think is a gift also, to say, hey, Jeff, there's a different story here, or they can reach out to you privately or publicly or whatever else. Like, we're actually at a pretty healthy space that this dialogue can even happen publicly or privately, good or bad. And that we all are, I think, hopefully okay as a result. But don't take it. My advice to you, I guess, is not to take it personally.
No, there are some learning opportunities there throughout that whole process of covering Headway. But, my personal opinion is, hey, if you're a business, WordPress or not, and you're shafting the people who are helping to make you, or to help you make a living, they're your bread and butter, your customers. If they get shafted, that's a story I think that needs to be told. And that's really the bottom line for me.
Yep.
So
I mean, I have an open support request with Coinbase right now, and they have not responded to me in 7 days. And I get that it's Christmas, uh, but hey, y'all, why not maybe reply or just say anything at all, about someone who, is a, I guess, a paying customer of the 3% that they take off the top for whatever stupid virtual money that doesn't really exist out in the world type transactions that happens. So, I'm not real happy about it, but at the same time, uh, I don't know. I'm not in a position to cover it like it's news. It's just me moaning and groaning about, it's just a complaint. So I don't know. Do you think people thought that you were just complaining? Do you think people?
I know. I know what people thought, and it was people. I mean, it's just like you said, and we talked about it in previous episodes, where there were people who knew them personally, professionally, who knew more about the story than what I was covering.
Sure.
Parts of the story that couldn't be written or probably wouldn't be responsible to have written about. Family was involved, and I get that, and that's where some of the pushback and defense comes from.
Well, that's like a lot of startups. Their angel investors are family and friends, right? Like a lot of people invest in little companies and startups that, if something goes south, people end up having broken promises and dreams and losing money and everything else. I don't know. So has there been a coverage like this? Because I know that the Headway Themes article and the feedback from it. I mean, we're talking about it again now,
the whole.
Has there been anything?
Everything that's gone on since Headway Themes. It was the first time really I've written about something like that, and then have followed up with regular articles. And at least in the WordPress space, it's the first time I've experienced a company doing that or going through that in the WordPress space. So
even as we go through, we went January through April. We think of the things
we still got to finish April, by the way.
Well, I know we do have one left, but like the 10up folks that when they launched Elastic Press, like I'm assuming that's still around, but we haven't talked about it since, and I'm not a customer, so I don't know if it's still around or how good that it is. So there's like a lot of things that we could cover, that you could talk about, that came and went, like Jetpack's WordPress.com toolbar and themes and those kind of things. But so do you think people just felt like you were targeting them unfairly, or what do you think the feeling was?
I already had people telling me it was a witch hunt, that I was on a witch hunt against Clay and Grant, which isn't true at all. I just felt like I was providing the coverage, and at the appropriate time when I had enough information, new information available, I was presenting that to the people. And on the flip side, I had so many people say, hey, I've been Googling everywhere to find out what's going on with Headway Themes, and thanks to your articles, I know what's going on, and now it makes sense. Now the lack of communication makes sense. And a lot of my articles provided customers, both current and former customers, with the information that unfortunately the company's owners were not providing.
Right. Hey. Well, I guess everybody learned something. I feel like anyone who was curious about the rest of the episode left. They're like, I'm sick of talking about Headway Themes. I don't want to talk about Headway Themes anymore.
Yeah, probably.
You want to talk about? No. Are we done talking about Headway Themes?
Yeah,
okay, so let's finish out April.
Finish it.
Shopify discontinues its official plugin for WordPress. Oh, so we'll end April on a downward. Let's come more positive.
More 10up. So in May, beginning of May, 10up released a WP Docker, which is an open source Docker configuration for local WordPress development. Jetpack introduced an EU cookie law banner widget.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
The Weeklot multilingual plugin closed a €450,000 round of seed funding. WordPress joined HackerOne. It launched bug bounties. The Hooker plugin, Hook R plugin, rebranded as WP Inspect. I imagine a lot of that was due to public relations. The project was to shift to a module-based architecture. WordPress 4.7.5 was released to patch 6 security issues. Storefront 2.2.0 was released. That's the big sort of WooCommerce theme. It included a design refresh and major improvements to the new user experience. Rainmaker Digital announced that it was going to be partnering with Nimble Worldwide. WordPress removed HHVM from its testing infrastructure, and WP CLI 1.2.0 was released, which unveiled a new logo. And actually, that new logo looks pretty cool. It received a lot of compliments from the WordPress community.
And that was back in May, and I still like the logo now. Like, you know how that is easy to come and go. So I think Daniel, whomever, I don't know who did it. Does it say in the article that you guys wrote? Do you remember who did it?
Let's see.
It's good. I like the logo still. Daniel was handing out stickers at WordCamp US. I have a few.
It was actually designed by Chris Wallace and his team at Lyft UX.
Really?
So there you go.
Are they? Did Lyft? Was that?
Yes, it is further into the year.
Yeah. Okay. That's.
Speaking about, let's get us into June.
Are we in June? June is my birthday month, so it's only fitting. WP Forms acquires WP Mail SMTP plugin. VersionPress launched VersionPress.com to fund the open source project, which is a tried and true model, obviously, with WordPress and GitLab and Mattermost and a bunch of others. WordPress 4.8 Evans launched, featuring the very popular and super awesome Nearby WordPress Events dashboard widget, some new media widgets, link boundaries, and a bunch of other neat stuff. Imagely acquired Tesla Themes and looking for other acquisition opportunities. 9 Seeds acquired Web Savvy Marketing's Genesis Theme Store. WordCamp Europe drew over 1,900 attendees from 79 countries, which is awesome. WooCommerce dropped 50% renewal discount on subscriptions, and I remember talking about that one. I remember talking about that. But it's one of those things again where it like seems like a big deal at the time, and then it's over and done. And I don't know. I mean, as it comes up and as people come up for renewal for the next 12 months, it seemed like a big
deal at the time because it comes back to communication. A lot of communication didn't happen with certain people, and when communication was something like that happens, you just upset a lot of people.
Yep. WP Shout updates and acquires WPHierarchy.com.
That's a very cool resource, by the way.
It is a cool resource. I think I had commented that I really wanted something like that for the BBs and then never got to it. So, maybe someday. This is in June. I guess we should check and see the actual day. Maybe that was a birthday present to me. The Gutenberg was now available as a plugin for
June 22nd.
Nope, 17th. So a couple of days late.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty cool that was only in June. I guess it feels like it was so long ago, right? But Automatic has renewed.
And actually, that was and the interesting thing about that is it was introduced at WordCamp Europe. Actually,
that's right. I remember that. Automatic put a bunch more effort into underscores, and they retired the component starter theme generator. WooCommerce 3.1 added some CSV product importer exporter stuff and improved a little bit of their extension management. And then Clef shut down. Clef was cool. I was pretty bummed to see that went away. It's like another one of those really cool ideas that I'm willing to bet is just ahead of its time, right? Like it was just timing was not right for that type of 2-factor. And 5 years from now, something like Clef will come up, and everyone will talk about it like it's the newest, greatest thing. So that was June, and on to July.
And July starts off with the somber note where Jesse Peterson, founder of Genesis Theme or THE.me, passed away due to cystic fibrosis. Again, like we mentioned in the previous episode, our thoughts and prayers with the Peterson family. The Vanguard plugin, awesome name, by the way. Author shut down his blog hunting service due to trauma and death threats. Now that raised quite a conversation on the tab where sort of an interesting turn of events there with sort of the details of his actual the author's process of coming up with the algorithms and working with trying to improve the Vanguard systems and how he would actually have to look at the content himself and in order to be able to block it. It was kind of one of the crazier stories of the year, if you ask me, regarding WordPress stuff. Let's Encrypt passed 100 million certificates issued, so that's a pretty cool milestone. They said that they will offer wildcard certificates in January of 2018, which is next month. So good news if you're looking for that. 10up acquires Lyft.us. There you go.
There we are.
There we go. That's what happened there. So Chris Wallace and team joined the ranks of 10up.
Mhm.
AJ Morris acquired the iThemes Exchange, which was the e-commerce product that iThemes had developed. Now iThemes is focusing on a mobile app and working with WooCommerce.
Mhm.
So that's what they're working on now. React users petition Facebook to relicense React.js after Apache Software Foundation bans BSD plus patents license in dependencies. Now, I mentioned this. Discussion has been going on in previous months regarding JavaScript and frameworks, and there was this brouhaha that was going around React and it having this patent clause, and a lot of developers saying, they don't want this patent clause. And BSD finally came out and said, or the Apache Foundation said, well, we're not going to support anything that has the BSD plus patents license clause in it, and dependencies. So that really put a strain on the developers that were using React.js at the time. So this led into other decisions and discussions that we'll get into later on in the year. SiteLock acquired Patchman's malware and vulnerability detection technology, extended their customer base to about 4 million people. Adobe announced that it will discontinue Flash support and updates in 2020, which is probably should have done that a long time ago. .blog passed 100,000 registrations with about 66.5% of purchased domains are in use. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I try to use my .blog all the time if I can. It's been a while, but
no, I link to JJJ.blog all the time. It's like, man, I'm giving you so much link juice. Write something.
Yeah, right. Dozens of people check out my blog.
Dozens of eyeballs.
Pictures of my dogs, basically. So
on to
August.
August, yes.
Jetpack 5.2 brought some improvements to the contact form module, otherwise known as Grunion. WordPress Polyglot's team fuels international community growth with the 3rd annual Global Translation Day, which is always a huge success and becoming more and more successful every year. So kudos to all of them. WordPress 4.8.1 came out with the custom HTML widget to start, fix some of the 4.8 widget little complaints and criticisms and feedback. The Automatics trademark trial was dismissed by the appeal board against Chris Pearson. That was a big deal too. I'm curious.
You want to talk about some boring reading? Reading through those patent clauses, and oh my god, it's so boring.
But I
don't recommend it to anybody.
I wonder what the real end result of that is. Like, where is Chris today, and how is he doing, and what's the deal there? Is everything? I don't know. We should talk to Chris.
I wouldn't mind having him on the show and talking to him and just seeing his take on things. But
if he would grace us, I would love to talk with Chris. It's been a long time.
I try and ask him questions, or I try and do things with him, and he our conversation turns into I'm like against him or something to that effect.
Well, you
like
are.
Part of Matt's classy against him, and I'm not. I'm just.
But you are. No, you're not.
No. I mean, I would love to have Chris on the show to get his take.
You tell me all the time when we're not recording just how much a part of Matt's posse that you are. So.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. Don't get me in any more trouble than I already am.
I don't know. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I am Matt's favorite hand puppet. Let me tell you.
That's what I read in the comments in the tavern all the time. So
okay, see that? Okay,
that's my source of news on this subject. I assumed that. No.
All right, continue, please. Move on. Onwards and upwards, as you say.
WordPress.com's business plan, I think, was $99 a month. I don't remember anymore, but gives subscribers a way to tap into WordPress.org's third-party ecosystem, plugins and themes and all that jazz. So that was pretty good. I remember lots of kerfluffle and some FUD about whether or not that was going to take out everybody else's existing business, but I have a feeling that everything turned out okay there too. WordPress.org now allows plugin authors to specify a minimum PHP version requirement, which I don't know that I've done on any of my plugins, but I really probably should. And then Gutenberg 1.0.0, big number, milestone, introduces drag and drop for adding image blocks. And so that was August, right? Like Gutenberg from August until now is like a different thing, like rewritten like a bunch. So on to September.
On to September. Jetpack 5.3 added PHP 7.1 compatibility, better control for Word ads. Placement. WordPress.org added a new support rep role for plugin pages. That's something else you probably want to look into, John.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I'm just filling up your 2018 resolutions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
WordPress abandoned React due to the patents clause, Gutenberg to be written with a different library. That turned out not to be true. WordPress 4.8.2 patched 8 security vulnerabilities. Apply Filters podcast was retired after 83 episodes. And WordPress.com added Google Photos integration, which is available for Jetpack-enabled sites as well. So take us into October. Yes, free laughs. Here we go. Free giggles.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, you're going to make me say it. Poopy.life launches a pro version. It should have been poopy.pro. I've just put that out there. But WPSandbox.io aimed at theme and plugin developers, which we should check back in or talk to them because I'm curious how that has probably gone after a couple of months now. The Disqus data breach, a very, very politely exposed 17.5 million accounts to everyone that may or may not have been looking. So thanks for that. GitLab raised their C round $20 million and then added our friend Matt Mullenweg to their board of directors, which I think was a brilliant move. WooCommerce 3.2 added the ability to apply just that's right, coupons and WP admin, and introduces some pre-update version checks for extensions to make sure that nothing breaks when things get updated, which I think is really smart. The Postman SMTP plugin ended up getting forked after it was removed from the WordPress.org plugin repo for security issues. And the team over at WooCommerce retired the Canvas theme, and then obviously is moving or recommending everyone goes towards the new storefront theme that we talked about earlier. And then breaking the sound of broken hearts all throughout 15 years of the web when the Mozilla folks retired Firebug. Ugh, we're rounding out October with just the worst news on the web. Boy. Gosh, I need you to carry me into November because
your wife's name's Carrie.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute.
Thank you. All right, free shout out there. Speaking of this Postman SMT plugin story, that's one of the small trends, I guess you want to call it, that happened throughout this year that I noticed on the WordPress.org plugin directory is that there were a number of plugins. Some that are well known, some that weren't so well known, that were removed due to security issues, or as what happened lately, acquired by somebody and then they insert this malicious code. In fact, WordFence just did a large article on a plugin that added some backdoor stuff to it. And so some of the things that these people are going through with the plugins in the directory are just sort of mind-boggling. Anything to get those clicks and links in. To people's back ends.
Morton warned us to talk to
WordPress back ends. Boy, I had to cover myself there.
Oh, oof! This is still a family show, Jeff. Come on now.
Yes.
Morton warned us a little bit, kind of about the other part of this, and I think the takeaway is that there are people that really, truly are just looking for any exploit, any vector, any way that they can get a little bit of an edge ahead. And if that means paying somebody $10,000 or $15,000 to get 400,000 or 500,000 WordPress installs or less, even depending on what the value is of those customers or those users, then there's opportunity to be exploited there, and people are actively exploiting them. So.
Well, I think your article exploiting them, but at the same time, it also seems like a huge waste of money because more often than not, it's quickly caught by the plugin guidelines and the review team. Huge shout out to Otto, Mika, and Pippin Williamson and others who catch this stuff pretty quickly. And B, they have the ability to push out a version that doesn't contain any of the code changes that were negative.
Mm-hmm.
They can actually force all those sites to auto update to that version and essentially patching it. So while it seems like you could easily exploit a lot of sites this way, in the long run, it seems like it's just a waste of money, and maybe those people just don't know about it yet.
Well, and the plugin repository guidelines are the same but different than the guidelines that are in something like Apple's App Store, where we are able to employ a certain level of freedom in the WordPress.org plugin repo to kind of do the right thing or do what is right for users, because all of these plugins and themes are not sandboxed the way that an iOS or a macOS application are. These plugins and themes are running essentially on the metal with WordPress. So if something is doing something malicious, it's the repair for that, or the way to fix that breach, is sometimes uniquely different than it would be if it was just an application that was installed on people's iPhones and iPads and computers and those kind of things. So where the guidelines are today anyways are uniquely conservative or open for interpretation to let the fine folks that do the digging and the investigation work, like Mika and Otto and others, to make the right decision on behalf of every WordPress user. So I mean, everyone probably listening that knows how I feel and knows that I am comfortable and okay and trusting of those things. But a lot of people don't like it that way. So,
and I say today because there's a project underway right now that's on GitHub to rewrite and rework the plugin guidelines to be something maybe a little more stringent, maybe a little less flexibility in terms of the human factor. So
and what happens if, let's say, your plugin is in the queue for removal instead of instantly removed, right? Like if you are innocent until proven guilty, then your plugin may be able to do bad things for weeks at a time until you are judged by a jury of your peers and those kind of things, right? Like we can choose to introduce a lot of bureaucracy into the process that may not make things actually better than what they are today. And so it's important, I think, to remember that we have done pretty well with the way that it has been so far, and that we have a decent track record of taking care of the really bad things that could have happened and avoiding those things happening. So,
and speaking of the plugin directory overall, there's a lot of work that I know that's going into it where it's going to be WordPress based. There'll be custom statuses added. There'll be more people brought on to be part of the review team. So there are a lot of things that are underway for the meta team and the plugin team, and the directory is just going to get better, both from a management standpoint and the guidelines and what have you. Throughout next year.
Yep. And for that, I think the moderation team always needs better moderation tools. That is why there are entire companies like the folks at Help Scout and others, where being able to handle support and the communication that happens back and forth when something doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, those types of interaction and moderation tools, especially for plugins and themes on WordPress.org, are really important, and they kind of always have been. They've just kind of been non-existent. So it'll be neat to see what little pieces of enhancements and things go into moderating plugins and themes for 2018 and beyond.
So that takes us into Turkey Month, November. And WordPress 4.8.3 was released, a security release that we found out was 6 weeks in the making. Prestis was removed from WordPress 4.9 in favor of a plugin. Bianca Wells was awarded the Kim Parcell Travel Scholarship. Again, congrats to you, Ms.
Mm-hmm.
Welds. Jetpack 5.5 removed syntax highlighting and the gallery widget for compatibility with WordPress 4.9. WordPress 4.9 was released with major improvements to the customizer workflow, updated code editors, and a new core gallery widget. The Tailor Page Builder plugin was discontinued. Owners cited funding, Gutenberg, and competition as reasons for it sort of disappearing. WordPress 4.9.1 was released. It fixed a page template bug that drove a lot of developers batty. It had to do with caching in 4.9. And then we had WordPress Weekly episode 296, where we talked about Gutenberg, telemetry, Calypso, and more with Matt Mulloway on that crappy Wi-Fi connection in that Nashville hotel. And a little birdie tells me that he will possibly be at home with fiber internet and will be our guest on episode 300, which is next Wednesday.
It's going to be literal fiber. It's going to be a kite string with a styrofoam cup at the end that goes all the way from San Francisco to Ohio.
I mean, Houston.
And then, or is he's going to be in Houston? So it'll go from Houston,
I think.
Houston. It's probably the same. This is a Wisconsin phrase. The same difference, right?
Yeah,
so
okay,
it's going to from San Francisco to Ohio or Houston to. I guess San Francisco is probably farther, but I guarantee you, it's a styrofoam cup, kite string, and it's going to hop from you to me, so all of us can be together. So it's even the signal from the kite string will be degraded even further because of the split there.
Let me tell you. So episode 300 next week. Matt Mulloway, he's scheduled. In fact, it may be a 6 p.m. evening show, 6 p.m., I believe. So it'll be a dinner time. We'll have dinner with Matt on WordPress Weekly.
I'll have a brandy old fashioned. I'll be by the fireplace. It'll be a good show.
Yeah, I should get myself a drink for that show. So that rounds it out to December, where a few things have happened, but we're all busy being busy little elves. But what's happened in December so far, John?
So Storify is going to close on May 16th, 2018, and the WordPress plugin is going to be discontinued. Jetpack 5.6.1 it was a security release that fixed some stuff in the contact form module that, again, we talked about earlier. The folks over at WP SiteCare, hello, Ryan and friends, acquired WP Radius, which is awesome. Good to see. And then there's a link to a TechCrunch thing that you've got in the notes that I didn't.
Global used part of its funding to acquire Discuss.
Oh, really? When did that happen? I didn't read that.
This was back early in December. It was back on December 5th. A source close to the two companies told TechCrunch that the acquisition price was close to $90 million, and this marked Zeta's 11th acquisition. It was founded in 2007.
I remember reading this. But
Discuss has actually been acquired.
Wow. Good for them, I guess, but
And look at this. Intense Debate gets a mention here because down in the article it says Discuss launched in 2007 when there was still a lot of excitement around commenting and a number of similar third-party. Oh, God, I want to go back to those days kind of. But similar third-party commenting systems like Intense Debate, acquired by Automattic in 2008, and Livefire, acquired by Adobe in 2016, sprung up. That all took a slightly different approach to offering this kind of service, but essentially offered the same features. Intense Debate is fallen by the wayside, but they're still keeping the lights on because Automattic, from people I've talked to who know, there's still a million or so, maybe more, maybe a couple hundred thousand or so.
The last time, I think when I talked to, who would it have been back then? Bo? It might have been Bo, Mr. Bo Liebens at Automattic. I think it was somewhere in the realm of 300,000 or 400,000 sites that were still on it, but that was probably 2 years ago or so.
Yeah.
I imagine that there's only less sites and not more. Maybe not.
Do you think something like Intense Debate? Do you think somehow, some way that I know they're just probably keeping the lights on? I wonder. It's probably not that expensive to keep the lights on, but could we see a situation here on the web or through I don't know, maybe not thanks to social platforms, where intense debate can find some way to be relevant again, maybe come back as a reinvention of itself?
Well, that was the whole idea with Jetpack Comments, honestly. When we worked on Jetpack Comments originally, it was to try and offload some of that. And that was back when we built the first version, or Andy Peeling, actually, of BuddyPress fame, had built the foundation for the first version of post likes on WordPress.com that eventually turned into comment likes that myself and Peter Westwood and Joseph Scott, I'm trying to think, a few others that Automattic built as a team project at one of the grand meetups. And so we kind of tried to build some feature parity into Jetpack Comments for intense debate. But the one thing that always came back was as I would be browsing the web and I'd come across somebody's website where they, one, even had comments enabled, and two, where I was actually like, wow, their commenting system looks pretty rad. What is it? It was always intense debate. And I was like, oh, God, intense debate was so cool. Why are we...
Especially when they opened it up for plugins where you could bolt stuff onto it.
I know.
Say Jetpack Comments again.
So Jetpack Comments? So here's I think, to answer your question, that getting comments right is really difficult, and Facebook's stab at it solved one very specific problem, which is getting people to attach their actual identity to the stuff that they post across the web, which is part of like what makes comments both good and bad. Particularly if I call out the Tavern, where like there is a community of commenters on the Tavern. You know who they are, and other people that comment on the Tavern know who they are, but you may not see them in like any other place in the world. You're not friends with them on Facebook. They may or may not even have Facebook accounts. So their personality, their comments in WordPress are sort of old school. You get to be whoever you want to be in comments on WordPress. It's like IRC, change your nick, be who you want to be, and you self-affiliate your own identity. But Facebook really was like, okay, if you use Facebook for comments on your website, then people's identities are connected to this. And so if you're going to post something vile or be a bully or whatever, that you're doing it under you and not some pseudonym. And I think that I don't really personally enjoy Facebook or Facebook comments kind of in general on the whole. However, it's an interesting approach to solving that one specific comment problem. And so I think, to answer your question, there is still opportunity for what comments look like on blog posts. I think, like we've talked about before, and having BBPress solve that problem in a clever and fun way has always been on the roadmap for the BBPress plugin. But whether or not it deserves to be a SaaS offering, or whether or not it deserves to be a community that you own and run and host, is kind of philosophical, I think, to the needs of the community and the site that you run. Like the Tavern has always, back in the day, really had great forums. We've talked about that in the past before too. So to see forums resurrected and come back as a commenting platform for the Tavern has always been one of those hidden back of my mind ideas that I think we could do. It doesn't have anything to do with intense debate, but
I know one thing. All the cool stuff that made intense debate cool is not going to be built into core for WordPress. I remember back in the day, it just sometimes quotes resonate with me, and I remember asking Matt, look, all this cool stuff you can do with intense debate, comments haven't changed in WordPress for so many years. When are comments going to be like something that gets attention to it? How can we improve comments? And he says, well, getting comments right across all themes is hard and pretty much damn near impossible. So there's that. And no, who knows? There's still quite a few people out there who think that WordPress's roots are in blogging, and commenting was a part of blogging. In fact, commenting and having it built into WordPress is one of the features, the premier features, that got me to use it over Joomla, because on Joomla, you had to bolt on commenting, and it was a pain in the ass. WordPress was built in. It worked. And I wanted commenting on my articles, on my blog posts, and you couldn't do that on Joomla. So it's always a fond memory I have. But there's a lot of people who think commenting should be put into a plugin, and I don't know. Do you think are we too far into it now, where commenting in WordPress can be bolted into a plugin or abstracted out into a plugin?
I don't think it would be smart to do, because commenting is just too ubiquitous across the web for WordPress to remove commenting completely. I just don't think you can pull it out. And in a different world where where backpress would have somehow been the thing.
Yes, it's the end of 2017, and you said it. Backpress, you found a way. You win.
If that would have been what the community really wanted, and what the WordPress community fought for and enjoyed and championed, then comments would have been a plugin, and there would be 5 different types of commenting platforms that do it in different and unique ways or whatever. But long story short is that's just not the way that it went or that people wanted it. And so I think we're stuck with that decision forever, if not like a really long time. I've said the same thing about multi-site. Multi-site would have been a great plugin if we added support for drop-ins, if we added support for the MU plugins directory, then multi-site could have just been a plugin. But instead, it was merged into core to make everybody's lives easier, in theory. And I think it did that in some ways. And we're really lucky, and we've been really lucky on the multi-site side of it for the past 2 years, really, to have a great group of multi-site contributors. But if we didn't, it would just be sitting there. But sitting there as a core component or sitting there as a plugin, I don't know. What difference does it make? I don't know that it makes a whole heck of a lot of difference at the end of the day. And ultimately, WordPress is software for users. And so if it's easier to have comments on and installed by default with WordPress, because that is what the majority of people think that they want, then good. But I think what would be telling, while we're on the subject, and not to talk too long about it, but what would be telling is if
telemetry.
No.
Okay, sorry. All right. I won't go there. I'm sorry.
is if we get, telemetry, sure, that would help us get some fun data to prove the point that I'm about to make, which is if we turn comments off by default. Like when you install WordPress, you get the hello world blog post, you get the about page, and comments are on both of those. Comments are on, but Akismet obviously isn't activated. So on every new install of WordPress, you just get an open form for spam. It's just, here's your spam. And so if comments get to the point where we turn them off by default on a fresh installation, that starts to sort of be the death knell for comments, where now people just are not exposed to the type of interaction that comments would bring on a website. If you have to opt into comments and not opt out of comments, really changes the dynamic and interaction for people that are using WordPress. And so turning them off by default would be the first step in that direction. I think
and now that
was never going to go away.
And now that you're talking about this idea, and you mentioned a fresh install of WordPress still has Akismet bundled with it, and it has it off. If you turn comments off by default, what the hell do you need Akismet for? I mean, the business, there's also business implications there.
It's interesting. I mean, there's a lot that could happen, that may happen actually by the time we're 5 years from now.
I mean, people have advocated for years that Akismet not be bundled with WordPress. And why? Why Akismet? Well, because it protects, it was back in the day, it was free to use. It's still free to use, even though there's a little form there with a happy face, and it gets sad if you don't donate anything towards it. It's the little emotional response. But all these years, you just said something that it never even really occurred to me that it's been so long since I messed with a fresh install of WordPress, that for comments to be on, therefore you open yourself up to spam, and your first inclination is, okay, I need to protect myself from spam, and Akismet is already there. So now if we close comments or we turn them off by default to protect new users and new sites from spam, yeah, what the heck do you need Akismet for? That's
And I've always thought that, like, and I've said this before, but it's been a while since I've said it, so I'll say it again, that having comments on by default is weird, but also letting comments be as
Anonymous.
sort of anonymous as they are means you're letting any random person on the web write to your database on a server, which is like sort of unheard of in.
And we've already had
web
a number of WordPress releases related to hardening and to protect against cross-site scripting vulnerabilities related to some strings and code you can put in the comments or certain fields.
But then on
related
the
to anonymous comments.
On the flip side of that, though, in order to do anything that's relatively revolutionary, you do have to do the wrong thing, right? Like, in order for there to be commentary on people's blogs, you have to have it on by default. It has to be a thing that people expect to see. In order for, it may take Bitcoin being as terrible and burning through the power that it burns through for no real, like, earthly benefit, in order to, in a long tail, make transistors more efficient and make batteries more efficient. Like, we have to do this terrible thing in order to get to, like, the really good end result, in order to make something else more efficient. So, in order to make the web a more jovial, communicable place, we had to have comments on by default. But now that we're there, maybe it's okay to turn them off by default. I guess we'll see. I don't know.
All right, so that rounds out December. There's still stuff going on. Who knows what? Nobody knows.
I know our friends over at Easy Digital Downloads released a security release just before we all left for break on December 21st, I think, 2.8.
Oh, my birthday, sweet.
That's right. Happy birthday! And your gift was an EDD release. So that's a piece of news that I know of that wasn't on our
speaking
list.
of EDD, I know Pippin announced today that work has begun on 3.0. It's something about finishing the conversion or migration to custom post tables, which is a very custom database tables. It's a very geeky subject that I don't need you to get on, right now, because we're near the end of the show. But let's talk a little bit about 2018. Let's look about the year ahead. Personally, for me, 2017 for me personally and professionally sucked. I mean, this is one of the worst years I've had in a long time.
Put it all out there, Jeff. This is why people love you.
My ability to write articles has gone out the window. My writing has gone down the tubes.
So. That's not true.
I lost my dog. And
that's a big part of it.
It's been a rough thing. I chased a deer and broke my ankle. So, there's that. I got the flu bug on Christmas Day. Let me tell you, it's been a rough year, but hey, I still have a roof over my head. There's a lot of things that I can be thankful for, which you can go back to the Thanksgiving episode to hear about that. But I mean, there are many aspects of this year that just really have me feeling down. However, in 2018, I'm happy to say that my wife and I have talked a lot about it. We are ready to get another dog. Mm-hmm. And there's so many voids in our life that have been empty because of not owning a dog. And I personally cannot wait to get the puppy and to do the process all over again. And its name is Smokey. So we picked out a name. We thought about names. We thought about all kinds of names, actually. And I'm like, well, it's a Yorkie. Yorkies are typically brown and black in color. Smokey. And even though it's going to be a girl, it could be, I think Smokey's a nice name for a Yorkie.
Was it Bailey in the running? Wasn't there other? What were the other? No, what was the other name?
No, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but it's going to be Smokey. Don't say any other name, okay?
I'm not going to.
We are convinced already. We already know it's Smokey.
And you're going to get a puppy?
Yes. We're already looking for breeders. We're going to get a puppy and start the process all over again. Professionally, my coworker, Sarah Gunning, she's out. She's being a wonderful mother. She's taking care of things. So my job here is to take care of the tavern. So that's going to be my focus, and get my writing back in gear, and uh, write a lot more in Gutenberg. Which the more I write in Gutenberg, the more I like it. The more I want to, live in Gutenberg. Doing things the blocky way is actually a lot better than I thought it would be. In fact, I was writing a blog post on WordPress.com the other day, and I'm like, why can't I just create an image block and have it for 3 columns? No, I got to go in here. I got to change a gallery block. I got to create a gallery with 3 images, and then I got to hope it looks right. And that was kind of actually a first-hand glimpse as to some of the user flows that Gutenberg really improves with the block aspect. So that was kind of enlightening. But yeah, I've got some things to look forward to in 2008.
You say the blocky way?
Yeah, blocky way.
The blocky way?
Yeah, a blocky way.
Is that like the Rockaway? Is this like my blog is don't dance? We just pull up our pants and do the blocky way?
You're distracting me. Let me get on. So I have some things to look forward to next year. I'm excited, especially with the dog. I think getting the puppy is really going to set some things right for us, for me and my wife, and I'm looking forward to a happy and successful 2018. John,
y'all aren't far away. Y'all aren't far away. We can do a puppy camp. We can do a WordPress puppy meetup when that happens. Paul's 8, but he's still a puppy. So, and we've talked about it on the show and off the show, where like Carrie and I don't have kids yet, but so we do spend a lot of time with the dogs and how
I can't believe this
impacts our lives and all those things. So dogs are a really important part of your daily routine and what you do and where you go.
I just logged. I'm doing this live. I just logged on to Twitter, and the first post I see is Alita Susi, who I follow on Twitter, announces they got a puppy. I mean, is that synchronicity or what? Unbelievable.
That's very cute. Oh.
All right, continue.
Dogs are they're if you are fortunate enough to have found your own little puppy soulmate and a dog that is completes you the way you complete it, then that's one of those experiences that I hope that everyone gets to have in their lives, because there's nothing else like it. And so I've been really lucky and fortunate with my dog. And when Carrie and I got married and we rescued a dog, Penny has turned out very, very cute and has her Penny-isms also. So I'm happy you guys are over that hump, because it's dark times when that I keep telling Carrie that Paul's going to live forever. He's just always going to be around.
Stop,
because
you're just going to make it worse when it happens. You're making it worse.
I know.
You're making it worse. All right, so
2018.
Talk about 2018 for you, and then we'll talk about predictions. Here, I'll be really quick with my prediction for 2018. Gutenberg. Okay, your turn.
Well, that was easy. I mean, that's cheating in a way. 2018, for me, I'm helping. I have a new job. That's not newsworthy or anything. I am helping all of our family and friends over at Sandhills with EDD 3.0 and all the fun stuff that they're working on. So I'm walking around the news coverage there to make sure that I'm not trying to be in anybody's targets for being conflicting about anything. But there is a fun secret thing Pippin and I have been working on for a while that has nothing to do with EDD really directly.
I know what it is.
I know you know what it is, but when it's time, we'll talk about it, but it's not time yet. And professionally, I really enjoy doing this show with you every week. Is a lot of fun. And so hopefully that continues and you don't fire me again. And then I'd like to try and work more on our house a little bit. Like all the little stuff is done, and Carrie is way better at like the remodeling kind of thing and has a better eye for it than I think I probably do. But we're at the point now with our house where it needs the big expensive stuff that I don't really want to do myself. Like it needs a new fence, and we could probably use new siding and The roof is still good, but it's the original shingles. And so, what do we do about that? And the driveway concrete is cracked. And so we'd like to probably pour a new driveway. And I don't know, all this big expensive crap that I really don't want to do. And so, one thing at a time, but
I'm sure you'll be able to pay for it with your donations that people give you through open, because your contributions to open source. Or do you need another 50 grand?
I could use several 50 grand. If someone gave me a tax-free $5 million check, I could spend it in a day. We could all spend it in a day. So the money isn't even really the issue as much as like what could you do with it, right? Like, I don't know. But I mean, my thing with the donation thing now is on a serious note, but also because, I see what you're getting at, is I am happy that the community was able to be supportive of me because they have been supportive of others since then. And so it proves that when someone is in a pinch or they need something or they have a need or they're trying to work full-time on Core or anything else, the folks at Yoast have invested heavily in Core contributions. GoDaddy, others invest heavily in contributing to Core. And so if it's independently or if it's being supported by a company or anything else, that I am very fortunate that folks got behind me, but that they continued to get behind others afterwards. So if I can help other people by my own personal experiments and the things that I've been lucky enough to try and achieve, that I am happy to try and help others learn from my mistakes and maybe do a better job than I was able to do while I was learning how to figure it all out. So, but if someone's writing a $5 million check, let me know, because there's a lot we could do with $5 million, but I'd probably spend it in a day.
By the way, while you're doing all that, can you believe it's been a year now since Carrie Fisher passed away?
That's incredible. Also, it's also
a year.
How was that, January or December last year? I don't remember. Did you just look that up now? Are you reading the news while I'm talking? You're not even paying any attention to me. Well, I'm like having a heartfelt moment, and you're all just browsing the web, checking Reddit. Like, oh yeah, I guess so. All right.
Well, dude, seriously, during the show while you were talking, I was going to mute myself. I was going to go get a fidget spinner and spin it live on the webcam. I should have. Would have been gorgeous.
So predictions for 2018. WordPress predictions are like general predictions.
Let's do WordPress and just maybe general web.
So Gutenberg is the obvious one. That's a thing.
Hey, that's mine. I already called that.
Yep. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot more discussions about net neutrality. I think that we're a little inevitably kind of on the bad end of that deal, and that we'll probably watch that happen regardless of what the vote says and what people say and what actually the general public wants. And
we've got GDRP to look forward to.
But I think at large, when net neutrality comes and goes or passes or fails, that people will largely just keep doing exactly what they're doing and not change their behavior in any way until it's like hugely inconvenient, at which point Elon Musk will fall from the sky and then like launch a new internet and then save the day or something, right? Like, I don't know, but 2018 is, I don't know. 2017 was weird, and so hopefully 2018 is like less weird. But I have a feeling it's just going to get more weird from here.
As long as I get my dog, I'm okay with it. So
that's really all that I'm looking forward to too. That's the only thing I care about.
You're looking forward to me posting that picture and saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Smokey."
I'm very excited.
I can't wait for that, and that's going to be so cool. All right, so we're going to wrap it up here on this end of the year edition of WordPress Weekly. But before we do, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to all of our listeners out there, people I've met at WordCamps far and wide, people who have been listening to the show for the past 7 years or since it first aired, being with us through thick and thin. I really appreciate it, even though sometimes when you meet me in person at WordCamps, I may be off-putting. The fact is, I very much appreciate you. listening to the show. And John and I talked about this. I don't want to get into it, but I have a weird way of accepting praise.
It's not a good one.
It's not a good one. Something I'm going to work on for 2018. But again, thank you very much for listening to the show. I appreciate your feedback when we have a chance to meet in person. And I enjoy the fact that, by the way, John joined the show back in May. He was with me when we did a recap of WordCamp Chicago, and since then he's been the co-host of the show. So, John, thank you very much for being here on a weekly basis. It's like I said, it's been a pleasure getting back into the grind of you giving us the sort of the deep core inside look of WordPress, while I give the end user perspective, and it's always makes for a good show. Hell,
sure does.
Now it's an hour and a half on average. What does that tell you? We've had some excellent guests on this year. We're going to have some more excellent guests on and some awesome discussions next year. In fact, one of the things I'm working on is getting together, I think in February, Tammy Lister, Mike Schroeder, and Joe McGill, and we're going to have a WordPress Media Roundtable. So we're going to talk about the state of WordPress media in WordPress. And if you haven't had a chance yet, there were 2 presentations at WordCamp US that you could find on WordPress.tv. One is by Joe McGill that talks about how the WordPress media library works, and the other is by Mike Schroeder and Tammy Lister, where they actually compare the WordPress media library and its flows to other competitors. And the thing that's surprising is that WordPress, even though it hasn't undergone major improvements in the UI over the past few years, it's still up there in terms of its competitors. And there's actually this really cool flow diagram about the WordPress media library that shows really, if you look at the flow document that Tammy presented, the WordPress media library is super complicated. There's just so many different ways to do so many different things, and there's so many different things that could be improved. So we're going to talk about the state of the WordPress media library. I know it's a sore subject for a lot of people out there, especially those who want better categorization options, the ability to see which post or which piece of content an image is attached to, things of that nature. So we'll get into that in February. But we have an awesome show lined up for you next Wednesday, of course, with Matt Mulaway, episode 300. We'll talk about the state of the word, how we enjoyed hot chicken, and why the hell didn't you get out of that giant boot during the beginning of the state of the word? I mean, it was right there. A giant boot on stage. Come on. It's a given. You got to come out of the boot. So that's going to wrap it up here for this 2017 edition of WordPress Weekly. You can find show notes for this episode and all other episodes on WPTavern.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeffr, JEFFR0, and John
at JJJ on GitHub and Twitter, and JJJ.blog.
And before I wrap it up, I had some parting words here. Do you have any parting words here, sir, before we go?
Just that I've really, again, enjoyed being here since May, and I think you do a really good job with WordPress Weekly and on the Tavern. And I am excited to be on the show with you every Wednesday. So I look forward to many more episodes next year.
Absolutely. So that's going to do it. Everybody have a safe and enjoyable rest of the holiday season. The next time we talk to you and you hear our voices, it will be 2018. So long, everybody. Say bye, John.
Bye, John.